Once, in a vast green valley surrounded by towering mountains, there lived a young eagle named Raan. His wings were strong, his heart even stronger. While other birds were content soaring near the sun and returned to their nests, Raan had a hunger deeper than flight. He didn't just want to fly. He wanted to conquer the sky. He would often perch on the highest cliffs, eyes fixed on the horizon, watching storms roll like dragons breathing clouds. Every time a dark sky thundered, his heart pounded with it. His elders told him, storms are not meant to be chased. Even eagles must wait. But Raan's spirit didn't agree. He believed that if you truly wanted greatness, you had to face the wind head-on, even if it burned your feathers. One morning, as the sky turned gray and the wind howled to the valley, Raan spread his wings and whispered, "Now is the time." The others watched with wide eyes, unsure whether to cheer or cry. Without hesitation, he leapt. The storm welcomed him with fury. Lightning tore the skies, wind twisted like invisible claws, and the rain felt like knives. But Raan flew. He rose. Higher and higher. He screamed against the storm with the wild cry of a warrior. And for a moment he felt it, that power, that raw rush of facing the impossible. But storms don't honor bravery. They crush what resists. A sudden gust slammed him against the cliffside. One wing bent awkwardly. He tried to flap. Nothing. Pain shot through him. The next gust tossed him down like a leaf. His body spiraled out of control. The storm didn't care about dreams. It only knew how to break. When he woke, he was on the ground, his wings bruised, his pride shattered, his spirit quiet. Days passed, then weeks. His wings slowly healed, but not perfectly. He could fly, but never as high, never as wild. He sat alone often, watching young birds flap clumsily, learning what he once did so naturally. The sky seemed farther now. For a long time, he said nothing. He simply watched. But silence has a way of teaching. One day, a tiny sparrow landed beside him, trembling. "They say you fought the sky," the little one said. "Is it true?" Raan smiled faintly. "I chased storms." The sparrow's eyes widened. "Were you afraid?" Raan thought for a moment. "Not then. I should have been." The sparrow paused. "Do you regret it?" Raan looked at the sky, blue and calm now. "I regret thinking pain was the only way to grow. I regret not listening when wisdom was freely given. But I don't regret learning what I've learned." The sparrow tilted its head. "Then teach me." And that was the moment Raan's purpose shifted. He could no longer rule the skies, but he could raise others who would. He began to teach the young, not just how to fly, but how to feel the sky, to read the wind, to wait for the right moment instead of rushing into every cloud with blind ambition. Years passed. Birds from far away came to learn from the eagle who once chased storms. They didn't see him as broken. They saw him as wise. Because every scar on his wings carried a story, a warning, a lesson. One evening, as the sun dipped behind the mountains, one of the students asked, "Master Raan, if you had the chance, would you chase a storm again?" Raan looked at his old wings, stretched them gently, and then at the calm horizon. "I'd still fly," he said, "but this time I'd wait for the wind to be my ally, not my enemy." The story of Raan teaches us all a timeless truth. Ambition is beautiful, but direction is divine. It's okay to want more, to dream higher, but never forget that some storms are meant to be respected, not conquered. You don't always have to prove your strength by surviving pain. Sometimes real strength is shown in patience, in choosing peace, in flying smart, not just fast. He broke his wings chasing storms, but he rose again teaching others how not to fall. Sometimes we chase things that look powerful from a distance, not knowing they'll destroy us before they teach us. It begins innocently. You see something shining far away, an idea, a dream, a goal, a version of success, so dazzling that your heart stirs and your feet begin to move toward it. You don't ask if it's yours to chase or whether the timing is right. You just feel the pull. And so you go, believing that the closer you get, the more powerful, respected, and fulfilled you'll become. But what we often forget is that not everything that shines is worth chasing. Not every peak is meant to be climbed, Not every wind is meant to be ridden. From a distance, storms look majestic. The rolling clouds, the flashes of light, the raw energy of it all. It seems almost romantic. But up close, storms are nothing but chaos. They don't care about your dreams. They don't respect your courage. They tear through whatever comes in their path. And if you're not prepared, they'll rip away more than your wings. They'll tear apart your sense of direction, your belief in yourself, even your hope. The problem lies in how we're taught to view strength. From a young age, we're told to be bold, to aim high, to never back down. And there's value in that, but there's danger, too, because sometimes we're also taught that fear is weakness and caution is cowardice. So when we stand before something powerful, like a storm, like a challenge, we feel like we have something to prove, that if we walk away, we're lesser, that if we wait, we're wasting time. And so we jump, we rush in, not because it's wise, but because we've mistaken noise for progress. We don't realize that wisdom is not about chasing everything you can. It's about choosing what's truly right for you. It's about knowing the difference between a challenge that will grow you and one that will crush you. But this kind of clarity rarely comes at the beginning. It comes later, after you've fallen, after you've broken something that doesn't heal quickly, after you've lost more than you ever planned to risk. In the story of Raan, the young eagle, he didn't chase the storm because he hated peace. He chased it because he wanted more. He believed that greatness came only from flying through fury. He thought that courage meant facing the worst head-on. But what he didn't yet understand was that timing matters, preparation matters, listening matters. Sometimes the most courageous thing you can do is wait. Sometimes the bravest act is to stay grounded, to grow quietly, to resist the temptation to rush into the sky just because the clouds look dramatic. When Raan fell, it wasn't just his body that broke. His pride shattered. His certainty was crushed. For a while, he didn't know if he'd ever fly again, not just physically, but spiritually. The world seemed smaller after that. He stopped dreaming big, not because he couldn't, but because he was afraid. And that's another cost of chasing the wrong thing at the wrong time. It doesn't just hurt you in the moment. It haunts your future. It makes you doubt your instincts. It convinces you to shrink your life, to lower your voice, to stop trusting the part of you that once wanted more. But in that silence, a new kind of strength was born. Raan began to see things differently. He noticed the rhythm of the wind. He paid attention to how other birds moved, how they rested before they soared, how they waited for the right current to carry them forward instead of fighting everything. And slowly, something inside him shifted. He didn't fly as high as before, but he flew smarter. He didn't chase storms anymore, but he taught others how to read the sky. His pain became his wisdom. His fall became his foundation. The lesson is not that we shouldn't dream. It's that we must learn to honor the distance between where we are and where we want to go. We must learn to ask, is this my time? Is this my storm to chase? Or am I being called to prepare a little longer, to listen more closely? Because when we chase things without preparation, we are not being brave. We are being reckless. And when we fall, it's not just us who suffer. Sometimes our fall hurts the ones who believed in us, who depended on us, who loved us. There is no shame in falling. There's only shame in not learning from it. When we understand that strength is not in always soaring, but in knowing when not to fly, we begin to build a different kind of courage, one rooted not in ego, but in wisdom, not in noise, but in depth. And from that place, we stop chasing things that only look powerful. We begin walking toward the things that are truly meant for us, the ones that will grow us without destroying us, the ones that will challenge us without consuming us, the ones that will make us fly, not just far, but true. True strength is not in flying through every storm, but in knowing when to wait, when to rest, and when to rise again. This idea might sound simple on the surface, but it carries within it one of the deepest truths about life, struggle, and growth. We often glorify the ones who never stop, who push through every barrier, who keep going no matter the cost. The world celebrates hustle, action, resistance. But in that noise, something essential is forgotten. Even the strongest must rest. Even the bravest must pause. And even the wisest must know when to retreat, not in fear, but in awareness. The nature of a storm is chaos. It comes with power. It moves without mercy, and it cares little for those who try to challenge it. Many believe that going headfirst into every challenge proves their strength. They wear exhaustion like a badge of honor. They speak of battles and burnout, as if these are the only ways to measure courage. But storms are not always enemies. Sometimes they are signals. Sometimes they come to teach us not how to fight, but how to feel, how to recognize when it's time to fold our wings and wait it out. There's wisdom in stillness. There's growth in knowing your limits. And there's a different kind of bravery in saying, not now. Raan, the young eagle, believed that facing storms defined him. To him, waiting was weakness. Resting was for the uncertain. He looked at the elders perched on cliffs, unmoving during rain, and thought they were cowards. He didn't see their silence as strength. He didn't understand that sometimes the most powerful decision is to do nothing at all, that knowing when not to fly is as important as knowing how. And so he soared into the storm, determined to prove his worth, only to learn the hard way that strength without wisdom leads to pain. When his wings broke, something deeper broke inside him too. His pride, his momentum, his sense of being unstoppable, it all shattered. He had to face the reality that some forces are bigger than determination. That grit alone doesn't make you unbreakable, and that trying to control what you don't understand will only leave you wounded. But in the silence that followed, in the days of stillness and reflection, he discovered something greater than ambition. He discovered balance. He began to understand that flying is not about speed or defiance, but timing and trust. That rest is not the enemy of progress, but its partner. Nature itself honors this truth. Trees do not resist the storm. They bend. Rivers do not fight the rocks. They flow around them. Even the sun knows when to rise and when to fall. Everything in creation works with rhythm, not resistance. Yet humans, like Raan, often think we must fight everything, that every challenge must be faced immediately, that pausing is failure. But it's not. Pausing is strategy. Resting is recovery. Waiting is wisdom. And rising again after the storm has passed. That is the true display of strength. In Raan's later life, he became a teacher not by force but by grace. Not because he could still soar higher than others, but because he had something deeper to offer, understanding. He taught young birds that not every sky is meant to be entered. Not every moment is meant for action. That before you spread your wings, you must study the wind. Before you chase greatness, you must build your center. And when the storms come, and they always will, you must ask, is this my storm to face or my time to wait? The world needs this kind of strength more than ever. In a time where everyone is rushing, where every hour feels like a race, where rest is mistaken for laziness, and where reflection is often ignored, we must return to this truth, that it's okay to pause. It's okay to protect your energy. It's okay to sit still while the world moves, if you know your time will come. Your strength is not defined by how much you endure without stopping, but by how deeply you understand yourself, your limits, your timing, and your purpose. Some people never stop flying, but they forget why they started. Others rest, not because they're broken, but because they're wise. They're recharging, listening, observing. And when they rise again, they do so with intention, not impulse. They move with grace, not just with power. They soar not for applause, but from alignment. This is a strength that lasts. The kind that doesn't burn out, because it's rooted in balance. The kind that doesn't need to fight every battle, because it knows which ones matter. So many are lost today not because they lack wings, but because they don't know when to use them. They spend their lives either running into storms or hiding from the sky altogether. But the real path lies in learning both, the art of waiting and the courage of rising, to sit through the storm without losing hope, to rest without guilt, and then when the sky clears, to rise again not wounded but wiser, not exhausted but elevated, not broken but reborn. There comes a time in every journey where the lesson matters more than the destination. A moment when it's not about how far you've flown or how strong your wings appear. It's about what you learned from the sky, the storms, and the stillness. Raan's journey, once filled with noise and drive, transformed into something far more valuable. Quiet strength, not the kind that screams for attention, but the kind that breathes calm into chaos and teaches others to pause when the world pushes them to rush. What Ron learned isn't just his lesson. It's ours too. We live in a world that teaches us to push endlessly, to chase every wind, to fight every battle. But life is not meant to be an endless flight. There are times we are meant to soar, and times we are meant to perch and observe. There are moments to roar and moments to whisper. And the wisdom to know the difference is what separates those who burn out from those who truly rise. Ron chased the storm because he believed his worth was tied to struggle, that only through proving his bravery would he earn greatness. But he discovered painfully that true greatness doesn't come from fighting everything that comes your way. It comes from choosing what's truly worth your energy. Some storms are sent to break you. Others are sent to teach you when not to rise. And sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is wait. This story gives us a clear message. True strength lies not in how many times you fly, but in knowing when to fly, why to fly, and when not to. Look around. So many people are exhausted, not because they're weak, but because they never learned to pause. They carry burdens they never needed to lift, fly into storms they never needed to chase, and fight battles that were never theirs to begin with. In doing so, they confuse endurance with purpose. But Ron teaches us that resilience isn't about flying through everything. It's about knowing what deserves your wings. He could have stayed bitter. He could have told the young ones never to fly again. But he didn't. He taught them how to read the sky, how to respect the wind, how to know that waiting is not weakness. It's wisdom. He turned his fall into flight for others. And that is what makes him powerful. When we experience setbacks in life, it's tempting to define ourselves by our falls. But our falls are not our end. They're the beginning of deeper strength. The kind you don't see in feathers or muscles, but in choices, in silence, in knowing that even broken wings can lift others. Even shattered pride can become a pillar for someone else's path. Let this be a reminder. You are not weak for resting. You are not lazy for stepping back. You are not failing if you haven't conquered everything yet. You're growing. You're observing. You're learning. And your time will come, but it will come only if you're willing to rise for the right reasons, not for the applause, not for the rush, but because your heart and the sky agree. Now is your time. Every great flight begins not with motion, but with stillness. Birds don't leap without first watching the wind. Trees don't bloom without first surviving the winter. And you don't need to chase everything to become something. Sometimes, who you become while you wait is greater than what you get when you rush. So pause when you need to. Rest when your soul asks for it. Say no to storms that don't serve you. And when the time is right, fly, not to escape, but to express. Not to prove, but to live fully. Fly because you know where you're going. Fly because your spirit is aligned, not just your wings. In a world that glorifies chaos, be someone who moves with calm. In a sky full of storms, be someone who teaches others how to wait for the right breeze. Be like Raan, not for the way he flew into the storm, but for how he turned that storm into a story that changed lives. Because the truth is, one day, others will look at you not for how high you climbed, but for how wisely you walked. They'll remember not how fast you moved, but how deeply you impacted them. And if you live with awareness, patience, and quiet power, you'll leave behind more than memories. You'll leave behind meaning. The moral is clear. Life will offer you many storms. You don't have to fly through them all. The strongest souls are not the ones who never fall, but the ones who learn from each descent, rise with more wisdom, and teach others to fly with purpose. So when your wings feel tired, know this. Even in your stillness, you are growing. And when you fly again, you'll do so with the kind of strength no storm can touch.